I'm Tracy. Behind the bet, every story is different, and this is my story. So gambling started really for me. I think it's always been around. As children, obviously, go on holiday in the UK, you can guarantee it's going to rain. So we went in the arcades, and it was fun. You know, we all did it as a family. We also always bet on the Grand National. It was a big thing with my granddad. All the grandchildren, children, partners would sit, paper on the floor, and you'd point at a horse, and 25 pence each way we were allowed. You know, granddad would go down and with a big pile and put everybody's bet on, and then we'd all watch it as a family. As I got older, bingo became a thing, and that was something I could enjoy with my sister. And as my daughters got older, with them and their partners. And again, it was just a nice social evening out, and it was relaxed. Over time, I got introduced to online slots. Again, just something I could, take or leave. And then things in life changed, and gambling became my best friend. In fact, it was probably my only friend for a long time. I could be me. I didn't have to hide. Didn't have to put my mask on. 10p, 20p suddenly became £1, £2 a spin, and before you know it, the wages are gone. Then you're looking, can you eat tomorrow? Can you get to work tomorrow? And then the lies, the hiding, the shame, the guilt, it all goes hand in hand, and it just became a vicious circle. First, I think it was probably about 7 years ago, and I was with my mum. So we were talking, and I said, yeah, it was getting out of hand. So we had a look, and I went to a GA meeting. I went there 3 times. At that time, it wasn't for me. It was more about going into a betting shop, and it was very male orientated. I was the only female there. Just felt uncomfortable. So unfortunately that didn't work. And then it calmed down, and I was doing okay. I was in the odd day there, but nothing like it was. Then online became really severe. So just over 5 years ago, I did the Gamban stop. So I couldn't gamble on my phone or my laptop, which was great. So I could only do it if I went out and about. But again, that started as once a week, then became every day, really easily. Then COVID hit, and I'd obviously already banned myself online. For some bizarre reason, it didn't bother me, never entered my head, because I think I knew I didn't try. COVID lifted, and within a week, I was back into the bingo halls, and I don't know why, because like I said, for 2 years, not a thought. My first grandson had been born in that period, and I was absolutely besotted with him. It's such a close connection, because obviously during COVID you had to have limited access, and I idolised him. But even that didn't deter me from going back into that world. Started off as going to have a game of bingo again. Very quickly, bingo didn't interest me. I was just sitting in the slot rooms. And I could sit there from opening to close. When I did online gambling, I could lose 36 hours without even realising. Didn't eat, didn't sleep. And that's the way it was going again. I'd be in a slot place, it was due to close, I'd be on my phone Googling where was open. And that's where, unfortunately for me, I found out service stations. So I'd drive miles to go to a service station. I might even only have £10, £15 left, but I was going to put it in and I was going to win. 12 years ago, I think it is now, was the most serious attempt to take my own life. I don't think I could have been any lower than I was at that at that point. I got 3 failed marriages and a failed long-term relationship, and I'd just lost my home. So I was living in my sister's lounge with my youngest daughter, and I remember every single moment. I was sober, I was sane, I waited for everybody to go to bed, and I took a severe overdose. Luckily for me, my daughter did wake up. She went and got my niece and my sister, and I was quickly sent to hospital. There's been times I've sat and really thought about a different way, which way would really work this time. And the only thing I ever remember is coming round, and the first person I saw was my dad, and he told me he loved me. And that's what stops me. I'll never forget that. It wasn't easy. Nobody really understood. Why isn't it something that you can just not do? Was a lot of the responses. Ban yourself. That's what I got told. Go to groups. Stop blaming addiction. There's a lot of misunderstanding, and I don't think people are educated around it. And the one thing I do feel is it needs to be, the messages need to be spread wider. Children at school in the later years, they need to know about addictions and the damage it can cause, because that one innocent bet can change a person's life forever. Seriously needed help was just over 3 years ago, and it did get bad. And my daughter actually she was searching on the internet and she found Gordon Moody. So read it, and it said 3-4 days therapy, and then you do bits for a few weeks after. I thought, okay. So I made the call. I'll never forget it. And she said, yeah, I think you're going to really benefit from our 5-week residential. My mouth hit the floor. How can you disappear for 5 weeks? It was mind-blowing. But I did. My work accepted it. We're actually supportive of it. All the family were. All I kept thinking is, how will people cope if I'm not there? They did cope, obviously. But that drive up, and my 2 older daughters dropped me off, and I don't think I've cried like it in years. But I can honestly say I actually cried when I left because I didn't want to go home. I'd learned a lot in that time, and I genuinely, the programme was good. It really was. And for a long time afterwards, I stuck religiously by what I'd learned. Did the journaling, everything. And then, unfortunately for me, life events happened again. So I had a big lapse last year. I was fortunate enough that I knew I could reach out, and I made a call. It really was my last hope. I was on the floor, fetal position, and I was just sobbing. And a week later, I was in Gordon Moody for the second time. This time around, it's bizarre. It's totally different. I made the calls. I made the decisions. This was for me, so I could have a life. You know, my children are getting older, they've got their own lives, and I didn't want the life that I was living, constantly in fear. You're looking over your shoulder, you don't know what debt letters come in, what knock at the doors come in. And for the first time in about 10 years, my rent's in credit. And I only saw that this week. And honestly, I told everybody I think it's the most amazing thing. And life isn't a bed of roses. It's not sunshine and flowers every day. But it's my life and I can manage it now. The embarrassment, the shame, the guilt. I don't think people know where to go. You get into this hole, and for females especially, you genuinely think you're the only woman with a gambling problem. I was convinced for a long time nobody else was like me. My image of a gambling addict or, you know, heavy gambler was the man stood in the bookies, betting on the horses, betting on the dogs. So how could I be impacted by this so much? How could it be taking my life? But it does in such a short time as well. And we need to get the message out further and further, harder, and just be present, let people know that there is help. Gambling will always be around, and there's millions and billions of people that can go in and control and can say, I'll put £10 on this week, and they can manage it, and it's doable. And I don't blame the betting industry, the gambling industry. Unfortunately, there is also a lot of people that suffer with addiction and they can't put that control in place. The mental health side of it is massive. I am accountable for what I did and the decisions I made and where I ended up. And I take full responsibility for it and for the things that I did during that time. But I wasn't well. And I understand that now. There is an illness side to it. And we need people to understand that it's not something physical you can see, but it is as damaging as any other addiction out there, if not more. And that's the message we need to get out to people. I'm Tracy. There is a story behind the bet, and that was my story.